Hey, what's up, guys? I'm Clayton. This is my movie review channel. Today, we are taking a look at Memento, the second film directed by Christopher Nolan that we are reviewing. If you're new to my channel, I've started a Nolan review series going through each of Nolan's films, reviewing them, giving my thoughts on them, positives, negatives, and my rating of them. This is going to go until Nolan's new film, Oppenheimer, drops in theaters in July, just a little over a month away. And then I will give a review of that and then give a big finale where I rank all 12 of Nolan's films for the final piece to this series. So if you haven't already, like and subscribe so you get notified whenever I drop a new review video. Let's get right into my thoughts on Memento, starting with the positives. The biggest positive for me with Memento is the script. This is one of the most brilliant and creative and just unique scripts that you'll come across in film. It's a linear structure, but it's told in reverse sequence. So it's a reverse linear film. It starts with the end of the film and it kind of unwinds backwards to the beginning. So creative and so original by Nolan. And I love that component to this film. It's a very strong positive for me. The fact that when I watch this film, I take in the ingenuity of Christopher Nolan. I take in what he's doing with the script and the genius way and creative way of telling what's, quite frankly, a pretty simple story that's been done a million times of a guy trying to avenge his wife for her murder. We've seen that 1,000 times in film, but we've never seen it told the way that Nolan tells it in this film, which just shows that if you put your mind to it, you can do something like that. You can find a way to tell a story that's very common and it's been told a number of times and tell it a different way, make it fresh, make it unique, make it original. And that's what Nolan does here. So the script is by far the best component to this film. If nothing else, watch this film for that script alone. So that's a very strong positive for me. Another positive in Memento is the acting. I think the acting is really good across the board. There's not a whole lot of actors in this film. It pretty much follows Guy Pearce playing Leonard. The whole film, really good performance by Guy Pearce. He's typically a supporting guy, a guy who's thrown into a film to kind of elevate it, be a good supporting character. But here he shows his leading abilities as a lead actor in a film. He really carries his film and does a really good job in it. So I like his performance. The performances by all the actors really are pretty good. They seem pretty genuine. It doesn't feel, none of the performances feel flat. Everything feels on key, on point, and I do like the acting. So that's another positive for me. Another positive is the emotion, the emotional component to this film. I've often heard Nolan be criticized for not having emotional layers to his films, to his stories. I couldn't disagree more. I think he has, excuse me, I think he has strong emotional elements to his films. If you watch what he's doing and if you listen to the dialogue and you follow along with the stories, I think there's some deep emotional layers to his films. Interstellar has it, Inception has it, The Dark Knight Rises has it, Memento has it, and with Leonard's story, he's essentially a guy suffering from short-term memory loss because of an accident that happened where he lost his wife and then he was attacked, suffered a blow on the head, and now has short-term memory loss. But there's a scene in the film where he's kind of narrating the scene. His character's narrating the scene, and he talks about how he feels towards his wife, and how he knows he can't make new memories, but it still feels like she hasn't been gone very long. It seems like she's just got up during the middle of the night to use the restroom, but she should be back. She'll be back in any minute, but he knows she won't. And it's a really powerful scene and really emotional, especially if you put yourself in Leonard's shoes. Like, think about knowing your wife gets up during the middle of the night, and then you wake up in the morning, she's gone, and you know that you're never going to see her again. That's an emotional element to the story, and I think the dialogue there is really good. He has a line there that stuck out to me. He said something along. I'm not quoting it, but he said something along the lines of, "I'm trying to remember to forget. Remember to forget her, or remember to forget the why he's doing what he's doing." It's something along those lines, but it was a really emotional scene when you're hearing this guy talking about the love that he had for his wife, and just coming to that realization he's never going to see her again. And so I definitely think that this film has that emotional layer to it that works well for me, and it is a positive. This is a story that actually has something to say. It actually has something to tell me, and I enjoyed that element to this film. And then the pacing is another positive. I think this film is well paced. There's some action in there in the right moments that kind of carry you through the 3 acts, because there is a lot of exposition in this film, a lot of dialogue driven scenes, but Nolan knows just when to throw in some action here and there to kind of keep you invested, keep you focused on the story, on the sequences, and carries you through to the end. And I think the pacing here is pretty well handled. So moving on to my negatives with Memento, there are a few negatives here I want to address. One of them is kind of the lapse of reason, or lapse of logic. We're thrown into the story with Leonard, and we're never told how long it's been exactly since this accident happened, since he lost his wife. But we know there's been somewhat of a decent amount of time, given the fact that he's got all these tattoos. He's had time to get all these tattoos on his body. He's had time to collect all this information, do all of this kind of reconnaissance and detective type of work to gather all his stuff to help him remember. And it seems weird to me that no one's looking for him. Like, that doesn't really make any sense. How is this guy on the loose? He's not a bad guy, he's a good guy, but how is he on the loose? Like, how is it that nobody's trying to find him? There's no, he doesn't have any family members. No one's, filed a missing person report to law enforcement. No one's trying to find, he doesn't have any coworkers that are concerned about him, trying to get a hold of him. Like, it just seems odd that he's able to just go on this whole journey in this whole story, able to check into hotels using his name. So there's no, obviously no search for him in the police department. It just, I don't know, it feels odd. Maybe I'm the only one that feels that way, but every time I see this movie, that's always in the back of my head. It's not something that sticks out all the time when I'm watching this movie the whole time, but it's always in the back of my head, like, how is this guy not, like, in a hospital somewhere? How is no one trying to find him or look for him? It doesn't, that lack of logic there, it bothers me when I watch this film. So that is one of my negatives with Memento. Another negative for me personally is the fact that Leonard is sleeping around with these different women. He sleeps with Natalie, he sleeps with the prostitute woman in his apartment, and yet he's so focused on trying to avenge his wife, and we can see that he has such a great love for his wife. It feels out of character that Leonard would be sleeping with these women while in the process of trying to avenge his wife, and always finding things to remember her, thinking about her, and yet he's sleeping with these women. I don't buy that. I don't buy that character would do that, and that's another thing that bothers me when I watch this film. It's just I don't feel that that's consistent with the character of Leonard. So that's another negative. And then a third negative that I want to point out is I don't feel like this film has strong rewatch value to it. This is a film that was made, not, I shouldn't say it was made, but this is a film that I feel pours all of its energy and its power in the first viewing. When you watch this film the first time, you're blown away with how Nolan is able to tell this story and make this film. It's mind-blowing, really. I mean, it's so brilliant. But upon rewatches, you at least for me, I find myself not having a whole lot of enjoyment there, because there's nothing that draws me back to this film that much. There's no iconic performance that's super memorable, that's always bringing you back. Like, I think of The Dark Knight. I think of Heath Ledger's iconic performance as the Joker, and that's a performance that makes you want to go back and watch The Dark Knight over and over, because it's such a memorable and iconic performance. And this film doesn't have that. It doesn't have the characters that make you want to go back and be so entertained by the characters. I recently reviewed Tombstone, and Tombstone has one of my favorite movie characters in Doc Holliday. This film doesn't have that. Yeah, Leonard is a likable guy, but as far as a movie character, he's not all that compelling. I'm not drawn back. I'm not, I want to go back and watch Leonard as a character in Memento. Like, and he's really the main character. There's a few other minor characters around him, but there's that draw me back to it repeatedly, and then it doesn't have, you have some films that have really cool action sequences with a really good score that make you want to go back and watch those scenes over and over. I think of Terminator 2 and the cool action sequences there with that awesome score behind it. This film doesn't have that. It has some action in it, but nothing that's super memorable, nothing that draws me back all the time, no iconic, memorable score. It doesn't have the rewatch elements to it to bring me back over and over. It's really all in that first viewing. And even the story, it's a pretty simple story on paper. It's a story that's been told a million times. A guy trying to avenge his wife's death. That's it. That's really the story. It's a simple story. We've seen it 100 times. The brilliance is in the script and how that story is told. But the story, even the story itself, it's not a story that I'm like, oh, I want to go back and watch that story again. So this film just doesn't really have for me, the things of other films do that make me want to watch it over and over again. It doesn't have high rewatch value to it. The one main thing that does draw me back to this film, the one thing that I do look forward to every time I see Memento, is how the story is told, is again in the script, and just enjoying the artistic skill of the film of a filmmaker like Christopher Nolan, and the way that he tells this story, and the brilliance of the script. So, but outside of just appreciating the artistic ability of Nolan in the script, this film doesn't really have much more going for it as far as entertainment or rewatch value in it for me personally. So that is another fairly significant negative I have with Memento. So my overall rating, I give this film 3.5 stars. I think it's a very good film. Anyone who is upset that I'm not giving it a higher rating, 3.5 stars is a very good film. If you can see my rating system here, you can see 3.5 films are films I really like, and I do really like Memento. I just can't, in good conscience, give this 4 stars or higher, because to me, a 4-star film is a film that I love, that I absolutely love, that I think is a classic, that has a lot of rewatch value to it, a film that I'm drawn back to a lot. I don't have that with Memento. It's a very good film. I appreciate the film for what it is, as far as a piece of art of cinema, and a brilliant style filmmaking, and that's a lot of what plays into the 3.5 star rating. It's just the amazing artistry of Nolan with this film. And like I said, there is some emotional layers there that also feed into that 3.5 star rating. It's a very good film. I do enjoy it. I do like it, but I can't put it any higher than 3.5 stars for me personally. So that's it, guys. Those are my thoughts on Memento. Let me know your thoughts on this film. What would you rate this film? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section. Also, stay tuned for my next video. I will be reviewing Insomnia, which is Nolan's third film. So if you want to see that video, hit the subscribe button so you get notified when I release that. Thank you guys for watching, and as always, rock on.